I'm really hoping for some discussion today based on experiences that you've had with etiquette and courtesies that we try to find and participate in this market. So as we go along or after the PowerPoint is over, if you want to share or participate, I really would love it because I think that adds to our training on these Monday afternoons.
I'm here to learn. You know what? I had a couple listings where I've had multiple offers.
Mhm.
The seller has typically picked one and ready to sign on it immediately. So then I have notified all other agents
Mhm.
that we have accepted an offer before putting it a C, like in contingent status and moving forward, because I've heard horror stories of not notifying agents and not getting enough rejection, documents
Right.
turned around. So if there's some insight or if somebody knows of a better way, I'd love to hear.
Well, I do cover that in this presentation because Steph and I both have had calls from our agents regarding that. They're frustrated because they're not hearing back or the agents are not following through. So it is definitely one thing that we want to consider when we enact in the transaction, but also know what to expect from the other co-broke. We don't know whether we're being too picky or we're being too sensitive or whatever. Our agents, our clients are being too demanding. But I think the more we know about what's generally considered courtesy, etiquette, maybe not a licensing law, but what's considered good professional etiquette in this business, the more we all use it and share the information, I think it gets around to everybody. Good reputation spreads, and people want to be that way.
100%.
And Amy, I thought I'd let you know, I know you lost out on a couple of offers this weekend. Somebody who had reached out to me regarding anything coming soon in Elm Grove said that she lost out on offers in Elm Grove as well. So clearly competition is stiff.
Yeah.
All right.
Should we get started?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be us. Nobody else has joined in.
Okay. Well, again, now, there are 5 people now coming in.
Oh, maybe I'm not seeing the.
I'll let him in. All right.
Gosh, I wonder if you should make me. Do you know how to make me a co-host?
No.
So when you look at the participants box,
Yes. Oh, I see.
and
There's me.
then I show you as the host.
Mhm.
If you want to hit the more button next to
Yes.
the one that's me and put make co-host. If that's.
Are you KW Milwaukee North Shore?
Yeah, both are.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, guys.
No, that was
only just so I can help monitor the
right.
Participants. Or you could make me a host altogether.
Okay, I just made you host altogether.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, I'm learning.
You got this.
Hello, everybody. Well, from all the phone calls that we're getting and being aware of the kind of market that all of you are trying to work in, trying to do your best, trying to do what you know how to do for your clients, it's putting a big strain on everybody because this is an extraordinary kind of market. I've seen a market like this in the past, but really not to this extreme. So it is something that I really feel badly for those licensees who just now got your license. Trust me, this is not real estate. It will swing. It always swings back and forth. It goes from a seller's market, what it is now, an extreme seller's market with low inventory. It'll eventually, always, the market rolls, go back to a buyer's market. And then you'll be complaining that you got too many listings and you don't know what to do with them, and there are not enough buyers around. So that's the challenge in our business, and it's something that you don't really complain about this market or that market. It's called the market, and whatever the market is, we do our best in it. So this is just going to be a reminder of, let me see. This is going to be a reminder of basically what the implications are in keeping a professional etiquette, courtesy, communication going back and forth between you and the other agents. Your reputation is very key to successful cooperation with agents. I know agents have been in the business as long as I have and longer. I know what their reputation is. They've got a reputation for getting great listings. They've got a reputation for, say, pricing too high. They have a reputation for being a really good negotiator. That reputation, especially in a small market area, becomes very well known, and it becomes your handle, in a sense, in doing successful cooperation with other agents. So the more courtesies you extend to other agents, and the other agents will extend that same courtesy back to you, it spreads, it grows, and we are working in a better market than when people are always on the defensive. The GMR several years ago, and I remember when it first came out, created this list of professional guides to keep our marketplace working in the best cooperation. We certainly have the code of ethics, being realtors, but this is a little more nuanced than the code of ethics. Of course, we still have to abide by the code of ethics, and a lot of things that are going on right now can be considered a little bit of a breach of the code of ethics. And some of those agents are being referred to arbitration for complaints. But when the GMAR came out with this guide, I forgot how long ago, they called it Pathways to Professionalism. And I'm just repeating them here. I'm certainly not going to drone on every single one of them, but I do think it's important that we touch on each one of them to, as I said, leave it in your mind and also to spread it to the cooperating agents you're working with. Of course, the golden rule rules all, and it's a good way to check how your behavior is if you're acting with somebody the way you would prefer them to act with you. This is something that I'd say is the biggest complaint that I hear a lot, is the responding promptly to inquiries and requests for information. Probably the most common complaint of working with clients or working with other agents is not responding promptly. Schedule appointments showing as far as in advance. If you're delayed or have to cancel an appointment, of course you're going to call and let them know. If a prospective buyer decides not to view a home, explain the situation to the listing broker as soon as possible. They usually will forgive it. What they won't forgive is to find out that you never even went into the house. Communicate with all parties in a timely fashion. When entering a property, ensure that in unexpected situations such as pets are handled appropriately, especially cats. As you know, if you have cats or have been around cats, they wait for any excuse for that door to open just a little bit and they're out the door. Not so much dogs, but dogs can be a situation too. If the seller, if the listing agent hasn't taken care of a dog, especially one that's kind of aggressive or barking, it's going to really kill a showing. I probably shouldn't use that word. Leave your business card. An old complaint, don't leave advertisement on your business card. Work with me, I'm better than everybody else kind of a phrase is not appropriate and can be complained about. Never criticize a property in the presence of the occupant, of course. Don't criticize a property in the presence of your client either. It's not your role to give your own impressions and your own judgments on a property when you're showing it. So let the client look at it at their own judgment. Inform occupants that you are leaving after showings. That's really important. Sometimes say there's an elderly couple there and they haven't left to the showings. Make sure you thank them and let them know that you are leaving. Always, this happened to me. When showing an occupied home, always ring the doorbell or knock first. Announce yourself loudly before entering. That's really important. And I didn't do that one time. I had the okay to show a house. I opened the door, walked in with my clients, and the owner came out at the top of the main stairway and yelled at me for coming into his home without permission. So I never did that again. Present a professional appearance at all time. Occupants are home, ask their permission before using the bathroom. If you can avoid that altogether, it's better. Encourage the clients of other brokers to direct questions to their agent or representative, not to the owner. Communicate clearly. Don't use jargon or slang that may not be readily understood, like things like FISBO and all those things that we use. Be more professional and use the actual words, like for sale by owner. Communicate clearly. Be aware and respect cultural differences. I have a wonderful book, especially agents who know me well. It's a book that's called Kiss, Bow, and Shake Hands. And it was put out by this woman through the GMAR. It's an excellent book in understanding cultures around the world and what some cultures may feel as complimentary or as insulting that we may not use in our culture. It's a very, very good book to have, especially if you have a lot of clients that are coming from other countries and other cultures. Show courtesy and respect to everyone, of course, and that's what this whole thing is about. Be aware of and meet all deadlines. Promise only what you can deliver. I remember one agent used to always get to me because she would always say to her clients, don't worry, I got that. Don't worry, I've got that. And there are a lot of times where she didn't get it and the client didn't appreciate the fact that they had given her that promise that she couldn't deliver. Make sure that people are aware at showings or around there that you are a realtor. And again, do not tell people what you think. Tell them what you know. Now, this first section is respect for the public. Our reputation as real estate agents and realtors across the Milwaukee area is very, very important. There's some people that have a not so positive role about real estate agents, and we're in this business to help them change their mind and make sure that they understand that we really have the best interests of our clients at hand. Any questions on this first section of respect for the public? Okay.
I have one question. This is Robert Coburn. I know it might say Chappelle, but on somebody else's account. But hi. Just a quick question. I joined in maybe a few seconds too late, having trouble loading it up. But would I be able to get a copy of this or? Sure.
This is being recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel.
Okay. That's great.
On the contract training.
Okay,
category.
That's great. Thank you.
Good. And again, I'll repeat to you and everybody else, if you have questions, please chime in. If you have situations that you weren't sure how you should have reacted or somebody did not react in a way, please bring it up because I think discussions are going to be important for this. The second section in Pathways to Professionalism, they called respect for property. And I think because of the complaints at GMAR, the complaints through the Professional Standards Panel, which I'm a member of, have a lot to do with this agents, for some reason, are not respecting the property that they're showing. And sometimes it's the clients of the agents, but the agents are the ones that take the brunt of it. It is the responsibility of an agent to maintain control of your clients in the house. So I'll go through this, but this is something that we see on an uptick. I don't know whether it's something that's in our society now or what, but there's a lot more disregard for the properties that are being shown. So obviously, be responsible for everyone you allow to enter a listing property. Never allow buyers to enter listed property unaccompanied. The board is now really allotting large fines for agents that are doing this. Large fines, I'm talking thousands of dollars, because they really want to put a stop to this behavior. Never give out a lockbox combination. Never say it's okay, you know, the house is vacant, you can go on in, I'll talk to you tomorrow, blah, blah. Never, never, never. I've seen fines as high as $5,000 on this now. When showing a property, keep all members of the group together. Don't let them wander off around the house on their own. And it's a good idea when you're showing a property to take control, keep control, and don't let an entire family do a showing with you if you can avoid it. Stick with the attention of the actual purchasers, and you know, if parents or all the kids or things like that want to come in and look at the house after maybe a second showing or after an accepted offer or something, that's fine. But never really on a first showing should you have a whole entourage of people, because it's going to be very hard for you to control them. Never allow unaccompanied access to the property without permission. That was probably more in regard to a vendor or somebody. Appraisers are okay. Appraisers are just like real estate agents. They'll call and want an appointment. And they are, most of them are members of the board, but definitely they are fine. Inspectors are fine, and they can accompany your buyer at an inspection without the licensee being there. I don't think it's a good idea. I think as a licensee, you should always be with your client, especially at inspections. So even though an inspector can take a buyer through, I don't think it's good practice. Enter only with, go ahead.
Well, you have to be there. Who's going to open the door?
Well, you can give the inspector the combination. So, and inspectors have the right, because they can go in and inspect the house. Sometimes they inspect it with nobody present. But say the buyer wants to be present at the inspection, the buyer's agent can't be. The listing agent may be there. They won't like it. But you can give the inspector the combination and he will open the door for your buyer. But again, it's not considered good practice. You want to be able to hear that inspection result live and not read it in a report. Enter the property only with permission, even if you have the lockbox key. Alert the listing agent immediately if the lockbox is not open, of course. When the occupant is absent, leave the property as you found it, and lights, heating, cooling, drapes, etc. If you think something is amiss, like something is broken or vandalized, obviously call the listing broker immediately. And as you can hear, I'm using the word obviously a lot, because a lot of these things are obvious. But it's amazing to see and to hear in some of the phone calls that I'm getting and Steph is getting, that maybe it isn't so obvious. Maybe people do need to be reminded of these basic courtesies.
I have a quick question.
Of course.
When you're the listing agent, do typically the listing agents like go every day in the morning and evening to like turn on the lights, turn off the lights, just make sure the home looks okay? Or what does that look like? It was just tough. I had a listing in Bayview this weekend and I couldn't always go at like 8:30 p.m. Friday night, Saturday night, and every morning, but I don't know what everyone else is doing, I guess, for that.
Well, it's all based on your listing presentation. If you are considering it a very valuable service to the seller, you can say, I will be present at all showings, or I will be present when the appraiser is looking, or I will be present when the inspection is going on, or you can say nothing. So it depends on how much are you willing to do it? How needy is your seller in wanting these sort of things? Maybe it's a way for you to get the listing over another agent. But if you do commit to doing that, then you have to do it. Then you have to either find a Keller Williams agent that will step in for you if you absolutely can't be there. But you must have a listing license present if that's what you promised. But there's no one way or other way. It's up to each and every one of you when you're doing your listing presentation on what you think is needed. I mean, I've taken listings where I'll be present at all showings. It's a real pain, but that seller wanted it. The first company that I worked for when I got into real estate, it was their policy that listing agents had to be present at all inspections. And that meant seeing a lot of inspections. But it was something that this company offered as a service, and all of us who were listed had to comply with that. Anyway.
It could be something that you work out with your seller as well. I've definitely, arranged it that I would go and turn off lights at the end of the day if they could just turn on lights before they left for the day, so.
Yeah, and you could also have it, and we talk about it a couple of times in this presentation, about your instructions for the showing agent. In showing time, the instructions are turn on all lights, turn off all lights before you leave. You have to really know what those instructions are and follow them, because the listing agent is depending on that. So make sure that you don't slough off showing instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Be considerate of the seller's property. Do not allow anyone to eat, drink, smoke, dispose of trash, use bathing or sleeping facilities. I can't imagine that. Or bring pets, please. Leave the house as you found it unless instructed otherwise. Kind of pathetic that they have to add all those things, but obviously there were examples of that happening. This is something that's always bothered me. People get out of their car at the curb and walk across the yard to go to the front door. It's very considerate to use the driveway or sidewalks and not to walk across the yard. I don't know if you disagree with that or not, but it's something, one thing it does is make your shoes dirtier. But the other thing is it's a courtesy. Some people are very proud of their lawn and they don't want people traipsing across it. Of course, take off your shoes and boots, wear the booties if they're available, and please don't discard the dirty booties at the door when you leave. Take them with you, throw them away in the trash, whatever. And children are sometimes an issue. Keep track of the children. You are responsible for reminding your client to keep track of their children. Sometimes that's very hard where the parents really don't care and the children are running amok throughout the whole house. I had a showing one time, it was my listing, not my showing, but children of a showing, they knocked over a Tiffany lamp on a table and it was thousands and thousands of dollars. But the people that were looking at the property didn't care. I mean, they cared when they got the bill. But watching over the children is really important. Don't let them pick up things. So a lot of times you'll see them, they go into a child's bedroom and they'll see all the toys in a child's bedroom, and they go over and they start playing with all the toys in the bedroom. Please remind your clients not to let their children do that. Okay, any questions about respect for the property? I know some of these, as I said, sound obvious, but unfortunately, if they're listed, it means they are happening. And this last section in Pathways to Professionalism is respect for your peers. I think a lot of this does vary state to state, varies region to region, as far as mores on how real estate agents work with one another. I know in some states and some cities, all showings have to be done by the listing agent, and the buyer's agent is just present. But the way things are done differently in different states and different communities and things are something that you just need to respect. If you're used to doing it another way in another city or something like that, don't expect that it's the same here or in any other local place. Find out what the mores are in each local place and respect that. This making sure you're dealing with a realtor. If you are dealing with a realtor, there are a lot of agents out there selling properties that are not realtors. They did not join the board. They are considered licensed sales agent in the state of Wisconsin. They won't be in MLS. They won't be under the board, but they will. Your status as a realtor is something that's very important. This is something, as I said earlier, about responding to your clients as soon as possible. Probably the biggest complaint I hear, and I've heard almost my whole entire time as a manager, is that agents don't return their calls. And some other co-broke agents get so frustrated that they'll call the manager. And as I said, I got a lot of these calls over the years, but so-and-so never calls me back. It's very hard to get a hold of so-and-so. And I really make sure that that agent that doesn't respond to their calls hears about it, because, well, I just think it's one of the basic things of being in sales. I mean, how could you be in sales and not respond to calls and ignore calls? I used to call agents a lot and from other companies. And I was amazed at the percentage of how many agents never answer their phone. They're either screening their calls or they just don't think it's important. But if they don't know who the call is coming from, it could be coming from somebody that saw them on the internet and wants to work with them and buy a $3 million house, but they're still not answering their call. So if you're in sales, I think you should find a way to either respond to calls quickly. If you do let them go into voicemail, then get right back to them. Respond to faxes and emails promptly and courteously. It's critical. And as I say, it's a huge complaint. Be aware that large electronic files with attachments may be a burden on recipients, and some may not be able to be delivered if they're so big. Notify the listing broker if there appears to be an inaccurate information on the listing. Share important information about a property, including the presence of pets. This is really important to have in showing time. What pets are there, what security systems are there, and if the sellers will be there. You don't want to be surprised walking into a showing with clients and, all of a sudden 2 German Shepherds come to greet you. Show courtesy, trust, and respect to all real estate professionals. And we are seeing a dip in this because of the calls that I'm fielding. There's some pretty rude behavior going on. I'm not seeing it with the agents that I know, but I am seeing it that it's out there. And it's something that, as I said, we're only going to grow in our profession if we grow together, if we work together and we show respect for one another. Trust is a big thing. Your clients trust you. That's why they chose you to work with you. You've got to make sure that other agents that you're working with trust you as well. So say what you mean and mean what you say, follow through on what you promise, and then people will trust you. I love this one. Avoid the inappropriate use of endearments and other denigrating language. It's hard to get away with that at all today. But saying something, even something as old-fashioned as calling another agent dear or honey, or being overly endearing, I think can be taken wrong and probably should be totally left out of a professional relationship. Do not prospect at other realtors' open houses or similar events. Yeah. Return keys promptly, especially city keys. Provide showing reports to the listing agent quickly, showing time, and it seems that we're going to be getting a new variation of a showing time pretty soon, but those systems are set up for you to be able to quickly respond to the listing agent on your showing and how it went. Make sure that you answer it completely. You talk about you want it to be constructive and respectful, and just instead of something like, oh, they hated it, or no go, things like that. Have some comments about what your client actually didn't like about the house or did like about the house, but chose not to write an offer on it. It's very, very helpful to the listing agent, and then they can get back to the seller with some really good information. You can give a showing report that gives absolutely no information. That's almost as bad as not giving a showing report. Let's work together in this. Replace keys in the lockbox after showings. This is accidents. I know people will drive off with the keys, but think about it. Don't. Mutual respect. Make sure that the listing agent is having as hard a time in this market as you are as a buyer's agent. It's very stressful for both sides to be able to treat their clients with the best options that they have. So understand that the listing agent, even though they sound like they're being not so positive or so friendly or whatever, is really under a lot of stress too. And try to understand their situation as well. I think you'll end up with more mutual respect for one another and probably a better deal. I heard the other day on a phone call that a offer was chosen. They had multiple offers, of course, and the offer was chosen because the listing agent knew the reputation of that agent and knew that they were very fair, trustworthy, and good to work with. And so the seller was at a loss to decide between two offers, and the listing agent piped in and they said, well, I know this agent. This agent is really good and very professional. And that was the deciding factor. Real estate is a reputation business, especially in the North Shore of Milwaukee, especially in Wauwatosa, especially in Lake Country, where you have these really enclosed sort of market areas where most of the agents know one another. If your reputation goes sideways for one reason or another, it's very hard to repair that and get that mutual respect that you should have. So these were some of the few courtesies that I pulled out that I think were really, really meaningful as far as what today is showing, based on things that I'm listening to in our phone calls, what Steph and I talk about as far as complaints that we're hearing. And it's a little bit of a repeat of the pathways to profession, but they're sort of standout courtesies. Leave the property as you found it. Window locks furniture, heating, cooling settings. I know some people turn the heat up if it's really cold and it's been at a low heat, but make sure you turn it back down. Same thing with air conditioning. You probably shouldn't be touching it at all, but I know people do. Provide prompt showing reports, be constructive and respectful, and thank the listing agent. Maybe we're not hearing enough thank yous. As a listing agent, thank every agent that turns in an offer. They went through a lot of work to get an offer on your property. You certainly deserve an offer. And this other really important one, never allow clients to access to the property alone, nor give out accommodations to unauthorized persons. And right now, the only authorized persons other than real estate agents are probably appraisers and inspectors. Am I missing anybody? Any comments on those? Any experience that you've had with those situations?
Yeah, I have a question. It says provide prompt showing reports. Do most agents do a report after every showing? I haven't really been doing that too much.
I always, to help prep sellers and for that, I'll let them know to expect a showing report, hopefully within 24 hours of a showing. You know, it's understandable that as a buyer's agent, you wouldn't be able to fill out a showing feedback right away. Obviously, if you're moving on to a next showing or another appointment, but I would say within 12 to 24 hours to get a showing report out is expected. So, but yes, you should be filling them out 100%. The biggest thing as a listing agent, you know, if you're trying as a listing agent, let's say you're trying to negotiate with your seller on a point, you know, maybe it's painting or, you know, doing an update or, you know, something that you might see as an objection from a buyer. It's helpful to potentially see that objection come from a buyer's feedback report, you know, so you can help make your case. So just coming from that perspective, that's why it's most important as a listing agent to want to see those. And sellers are really, really anxious.
Very.
You know, very anxious. So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to realize sellers go through a lot for a showing. Their hopes get up, way up at the request for any showing. They do the work in getting the house ready, getting the kids out, getting the pets out, you know, straightening everything up. And sometimes at very inopportune times during the day. And then to get no response whatsoever, or to get a response like, you know, they didn't like it. You have to be able to show that same courtesy to the listing agent and to the seller of why your clients chose not to write an offer on it. Provide good constructive criticism. Otherwise, your showing report is meaningless and worthless.
Mm-hmm. And don't hold back. I mean, obviously be professional and polite, but be honest. You know, it doesn't do anybody any good to be kind. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. I feel the biggest problem that as an agent, as a listing agent myself, and what I hear from others, the biggest problem is the showing reports are too polite.
Yeah.
And you're not getting any information. It was a lovely home. Thank you very much. Right. But you're not getting anything. And again, it's worthless. It's meaning nothing. Right. The lister and the seller really deserve a good constructive comment.
Yep. I wanted to.
That's very helpful. I just want to say that's very helpful because as new agent, I'm basically just a buyer's agent. I have had no experience with being a listing agent. And so all that commentary was super helpful.
Good. Great. I wanted to quickly go back to Joni. There was a point about this is kind of, it seems mild or insignificant, but there was a point about, yes, on the peer-to-peer professionalism regarding electronic files. So in my training now, I've started incorporating comments around how to send offers. And with zip forms, it is easy to be able to just forward offers that are just the separate attachments from your zip forms or DocuSign emails onto the listing agents when you're sending an offer to purchase, I mean. I think it's really, really important to take the extra step to combine all of your documents, your executed documents, before you send it off to the listing agent so that it's one PDF. And I know that seems really insignificant, but when you're on the go and you're receiving an offer as a listing agent, you want to be able to open it on your phone, quickly scroll through it, be able to send it off to your seller quickly enough to, go over it later with them. But that is something, and actually I've noticed listing agents are starting to put this in MLS private remarks where to please send it as one PDF. So if anybody has questions on how to combine files, let me know. But it's also just professional to, instead of like forwarding signed documents from your DocuSign rooms or your zip forms, to take the extra step and make it one PDF. So just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, well taken. This is just a list of some more of the courtesies that I wanted to point out. A lot of this discussion came from, it was probably around May 21st, May 25th, somewhere around there. And I was watching a chain of comments of our Keller Williams agents on the Keller Williams Facebook page. I think it was started by Peter Gosman, and then Chris, I can't remember her last name, chimed in with some excellent comments. Amanda Schroeder came in with some good comments. But I read that whole thread of all those responses and comments and everything. It was very, very good. And actually, one of the ideas that spurred me want to do this for contract training. I've added in this commentary a lot of things that were said by those Keller Williams agents to one another from that Facebook post. So if you want to go back around May 21st or something, search Peter Gosman. You can see that chain too. But a lot of those comments I did incorporate in here.
What was the what was the initial what were Peter's initial comments?
He was responding to somebody's comment, and I can't remember who that person was, about the behavior of agents today.
Oh.
And, so it started from that, and then there were just some really good follow-ups on that. Trying to see. Chris Ruskowitz.
Oh, Ruskowitz.
Chris Ruskowitz had some excellent points. Peter had some really excellent points. But I took notes on those, and actually that's how I got started on this.
It's pretty long.
It is long, but they're very well thought out by good agents, in the heat of the market right now. So I think our Facebook page is really valuable for that. Steph and I refrain from putting our comments in on some of these questions because I think it is a Facebook post for agents. If you have questions about certain things, Steph and I would appreciate a call or an email or a text to us directly so that we can respond to you directly. But we will not chime in on these Facebook posts, but I certainly read them. Occasionally I'll throw in a like. Again, this one, watch clients' children during showings. Respect sellers' instructions regarding their pets, especially. Follow listing agent or seller's instructions for showings. Do not bring an inspector on the showing or ask permission to first. this has been something propping up in some of our phone calls, that because agents are not drafting inspections in the offer to win the offer, the showing comes with an inspector. And so at the first showing, they're bringing an inspector in to do a very quick overview. Sellers are objecting to this, obviously, and it's being done, has been being done in the sly a little bit. Some sellers, listing agents now are putting in an MLS specifically, do not, list inspectors are not permitted at showings. But if you do want to, if your client does want to, or they have somebody that's very close friends that want to, you must ask permission of the listing agent and the seller to do that. It really should only be the client purchaser. This last one was something that I really thought was intriguing. Amanda Schroeder brought it up in that thread. Put the key in the lockbox while you're showing a property and lock it. Because of these electronic lock boxes, they record who comes in and who is showing the house and timestamp and everything. That's important information for the listing agent and the seller to know. And if you just have the door hanging open or the lockbox hanging open because there is a stream of buyers that are expected, they're not getting that information, and you're actually allowing an open house in a sense. You don't want that responsibility. You don't know whether some of these people in the stream are actually realtors. It's a liability, and I thought it was a very good point to point out. When you have a private showing, maybe it's only from 10 o'clock to 10:20, make sure the key is in the lockbox, the door is locked while you have your 20 minutes. Any comments about that? Any other things?
You also just don't want to lose a key. I've put keys down before and have forgotten where I've placed it. I mean, I always find it, but then you're scrambling at the end of your shift.
I typically put it in the front door, but that's one I know that there's not a stream of people behind me.
Yeah, just like in the lock. Yeah, I think.
But it's your responsibility when you have been given a private showing appointment. It's your responsibility to maintain that property, and letting in a stream of agents is one of those. This last page is just talking about the way we communicate with each other in this highly competitive market. Make sure that you keep the lines of communication open between you and the other agent. Encourage positive conversations. Talk about it. Talk about how we can make this work together. Talk about terms like win-win. What is something that we can do that would make this better for you? All in positive phraseology. When you're talking this way, you're encouraging trust in one another, that you get this deal done for your clients. Remember, this is about your clients. It's not about you. It's not about your production. It's not about your commission. It's about the client and what they want. Reply to every offer. This is something Carla talked about at the beginning. There are some listing agents that obviously are getting a lot of offers, but they're ignoring the offers that the seller doesn't want to deal with. They're not initialing rejection or initialing counter. They're just dumping it. And sometimes they even dump the buyer's agent by not replying to them. The buyer's agent has to call the listing agent, sometimes several times. What happened to my offer? What'd they say? What happened? Did you accept an offer? What's going on? I wrote an offer about 3 months ago. I had to do that with the listing agent. No response whatsoever. She got 8 offers and could have easily responded to ours, but never did. I finally tracked her down, but that is very rude and very unprofessional. I love the fact, and I remember the agent who taught me how to do this, and I did it religiously after that. Every time that I was given or sent a document, whether it was an amendment or notice, the offer to purchase, anything, I always texted back, I received it. And it just made a whole difference. All you need to do it is in a text: received, offer, received, amendment, received. And if you get into that habit of documenting receipt of these things, as we know in electronic delivery, sometimes they don't go through. And you can make the assumption, which you should never do in real estate, but you can make the assumption that you sent off that offer, especially in a time crunch situation, and you find out it was never received. Do that courtesy and tell them that you got it. Clear communication with all intended meaning, and I mean that, inflections, insinuations, intended meaning, comes only with direct face-to-face or a phone call. You cannot give good intention or inflection with a text or with an email. You can give that feeling of cooperation, positive energy with a face-to-face communication with the other agent or a phone call. Never negotiate by text or an email. Do your negotiations vocally. Otherwise, so much is lost. You know, you don't hear what the real rise in your voice means, or what the pause, or all of the different inflections that are part of our speech and as part of our communication. You don't hear that in the written word.
If I could add to that,
Yes.
Most agents give out way too much information on the listings anyways. So when you call them, they tell you all this information versus if you just sent an email, you wouldn't have known.
True. It's another problem.
Well, that's their problem, not mine.
Right. We need a review of the rules of real estate. But you're right. Try to keep texting just for notice, information, receipt of documents, but take the extra time. I know some people never answer their phone. You leave a voicemail that says, call me. Sometimes you'll get a response then. I'm sorry, I'm losing my. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to tack on to this, I guess it's said when you said keep lines of communication open. We've just, and no one from Keller Williams has ever done this, but I've seen agents make statements that they never, or that they only email back or they only text back. So just know that's out there. Keller Williams agents, I've never seen that done, but
Right.
Don't be that person.
And that's really good to point out. This training today is not because we have so many complaints about Keller Williams agents. I'm really proud and impressed with the caliber of professionalism at this company and the way the agents here try to do their best, try to be courteous, try to follow the code of ethics, rules and regulations. But what we are hearing is when it breaks down with cooperating agents, and maybe not always cooperating agents. As I said, the purpose of this is to spread the word, to make sure that if you're acting like this, hopefully you're spreading the word and the discussion the way it should be done.
Leading by example.
Yes. One thing that actually is in the code of ethics, but I am hearing an awful lot of about other agents, is never disparage the other party to your client. It turns everything negative. Don't complain about the other seller. Don't complain about the listing agent to your client. Oh, that listing agent never calls me back, or she's really being hardball, or I don't even think she told her seller what you said. All of that does is stir the pot, make it negative, and make it probably uncooperative to come to a conclusion. Keep your feelings to yourself about the behavior of the other agent Do not share it with your client. Only let your client know what the seller is saying by what the seller is saying in the paperwork. Don't make assumptions or insinuations or comments like that. Well, I bet the seller's saying that because they really want to, undermine you or blah, blah, blah. Don't make those comments. Keep them to yourself. Let the paper speak for itself. Let the wording in the amendments, the wording in the counters speak for themselves, and get the deal done based on the terms of the contract. But leave your opinions out of it totally. Try to keep control over your client. Your client's going to get emotional, and your client's going to want you to get emotional. But keep control over your client. Keep them looking at the big picture. It may not be this house. This may not be the transaction that is going to work for you. But before you even get into this stage of your house buying with your client, set the standards first. This is what we're going to do. And this is what we won't accept. And this is what we will accept. This is my budget and what I will want to work within. And then try to control your client based on those standards that you set. My final comment on all of this is, and a lot of times agents forget this, you're dealing with other people's money. It's the seller's money and it's the buyer's money that we are helping to negotiate. And it's not the agent's money. It's not the commission. It's not the production. And it certainly isn't our decision on what we do with other people's money. So that's it. Any other comments?
I just wanted to go back to disparaging the other client or getting negative around maybe communication or frustrations with your co-broke, the person on the other side. And I've made comments like this before when we've done similar trainings, but this is definitely something that I struggled with when I first started out as an agent. And just feeling like you needed to mimic or mirror how your client was feeling to make them feel like you were working for them. And, I just remember, I just want to point out again, like, we're the professionals and we need to be even keeled throughout this process as much as possible. It's really easy to get wrapped up in negative talk, right? But we need to be professional. So, and understand that we're working for their best interest by being the neutral party, or being a calm demeanor, I should say. We're not neutral, we work for them. So.
Now remember, if you're a buyer's agent, remember the analogy of buyer agency, that your client is watching you in a boxing ring. And you are inside the ring, inside the ropes with the listing agent negotiating. The seller and your buyer are outside the ropes observing. You are representing what they want. You are representing them. You are negotiating for them with the other listing agent. That kind of relationship that you have with your buyer is very important. If your buyer is a customer, your client, your customer is in the ring with the listing agent. So take that role seriously as a buyer's agent and make sure that in negotiations, that's your main goal. Any comments? Contributions?
Hey, Joan, I don't know if you said this, but again, being that third party, you don't. Yes, you have a stake in the game, but you don't know what your client's willing to pay.
Exactly.
We looked at a house last week. Price started at $625. We ended up getting it for $550. But were they willing to pay up that high? I didn't know. And that's their money. It's not yours.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of times that I've said, don't go by what your seller says. I'll never take anything less than blah, blah. Or don't go what your buyer says. I'll never pay a nickel over blah, blah.
Yeah. You never know where they're going to go.
Know what they want until it's on paper. And until they have the courage to put that on an amendment or a counter or whatever, you have no idea the limits of either your seller or your buyer. Good point. I really like that, David. Anything else? All right, well, this will be on YouTube, and I'd like you to spread the word, because I think the more we are reminded of these pathways to professionalism, and that we can spread the word among our co-brokes, that we'll have a much easier way of getting through this kind of market.
100%. Next week is on the inspection contingency, you guys. Joni and I love drilling the home inspection contingency home. So please try and make that training as well.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Joni.
Thank you,
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
David.